Welcome to the Appleseed Productions. This is episode 3, where we will be continuing the conversation from last Sunday, and which is basically a mix of religion and history, and as well as taboo conversations, and which is why we call this this show Taboo, because we're talking about difficult and hard-hitting conversations that are basically uncomfortable for some people in that aspect. So in that way, fast forward, we had a long conversation before, in the pre-setup for this, today's episode, and we were talking about victimhood. And we're talking about victimhood in the sense of, after all the years that Black and brown people have endured since slavery, and we're now in 2020. When is it a right time to talk about, or is this a good time to talk about accountability, responsibility, and ownership for your own decisions? Considering that slavery happened 400 years ago, and things of that nature. How do you feel about victimhood, and what is is that even appropriate to say in regards to all that we have endured and still are enduring to this day?
1 second, actually looking up victimhood.
Okay.
Chris, stay yours though, because you had a pretty good one.
Well, while you're looking that up, I think when it comes to this word victimhood, when we're having a conversation between people that look like us, it always starts with what someone has done to us and things of that nature, that things that have basically crippled us in a sense years going forward. And it gets to a point where it's kind of like you're beating a dead horse, because it's like, okay, although that happened several years ago, when are we gonna have this conversation to talk about how we should be basically having a self-reflection lesson upon what are we doing as of now, as of late, and what can we and basically in all fronts, what is it that I'll just say this, what is it to is that wrong to say that we are that we're still living in the sense of victimhood? Should I just say that?
It's wrong in depending on the means of context, because I looked up online and I typed victimhood in definition. First thing it said, the state of being a victim. And let's reverse it. Let me ask you this question. With the same connotation used in victimhood when it comes to Black and brown people, a woman that got raped was using that same connotation. Like, it simply says the state of being a victim. It's a woman that has got raped, is she a victim? So I think, in a sense, it's the way we look at being a victim, that if you're a victim, you're not strong. If you're a victim, you're weak. If you're a victim, you're powerless. And being a victim of some stuff, for example, you slapped me right now, I immediately became a victim of assault. It doesn't mean I'm powerless to do anything about it. It doesn't mean I'm not strong. But the fact is, I'm a victim of that. You had just done that too.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you talk about the reflection piece of looking at who we are now, I think you can't do that without looking into the past. The reason being is I think, especially for younger people that I teach now, I think that they need that for a sense of understanding of why we are today. Because a lot of young people I teach now, they believe that the conditions we are in as black and brown people, that I would say is our stereotype conditions. They believe that's just who we are. This is the way we are. They honestly believe that. It's just, statements I hear being a teacher like, why you fit make that grade? I ain't no white kid. Like, that's a mentality, that's a mindset. You have been taught that. And I think that we're doing, especially youth, a disservice by not at least going back and visiting, helping them understand why we are where we at today. Now, I don't think that says you stop there. I think that's what we've been messing up at, is we do that a lot of times we stop there. And I think that we have to start destroying the mindset that we have now, that we are just innately criminals. We are innately lazy. We innately don't stay around for our kids. Because it's getting to the point now where, and I can speak this at least from my point of view of the kids I teach every day, they start to believe that's just innately who we are. It's not a white person's fault. It's not their parents' fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just black people. It's what we do. We're rude. We're uneducated. We don't stay around for our kids. We live in bad neighborhoods. They're starting to believe this is the essence of being black. And to me, I think it's impossible literally to move forward until you dismantle that.
Can I paint you in a scenario?
Yes, you can.
Okay. This is gonna be a tie-in between world history and biblical history, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I was talking to Vontae and Daniel about it's gonna be a short story. So we all remember what Kanye said back in 2018 when he said slavery was a choice, right? Now, connecting that to let's say from what he said to what the Bible hints. The Bible says in the book of Deuteronomy, basically it's this book was basically this story or a parable. I won't even say it's a parable if he's talking about like actual history and it actually happened. And it talks about the goodness of following and obeying His word, hence the Ten Commandments. When God sent or instructed Moses to embark on setting and establishing a set of rules that the people of Israel should follow, and here is what will happen if you choose to obey, and these are the consequences and repercussions for what you choose to basically go against my word. So basically, in that, a lot of people, even black Hebrew Israelites, they link that book as it's pertaining, speaking to just people of color. In that, it's kind of like that book is kind of like a self-reflection book, that if people look at it that way, as if it's saying that we've technically have put ourselves in this position based on our own right to just go against those set of rules. How do you feel about that? Like, do you think that there is validity in that, or how do you feel about that?
I disagree with it in the sense of, I would never say that we have put ourselves in the position we are in, because that feeds into what some people on this earth believe, that, to put it in layman's term, white is right, and that's where they're in the position they're in, and dark skin or black or brown skin is wrong. So that's just, that wouldn't, because the flip side is you always want to think of the flip side of that. Like you could try to isolate it and put it in a vacuum and say that us as a people maybe we're not where we're supposed to be because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Cool, but like I said, a lot of time I think about children because I'm a teacher, I teach, so they're not gonna stop it. They don't say, oh, so white people are in the position they're in because they do things mostly right. So it makes sense. Oh, that's why we live in the hoods and we live in projects.
Well, no. In that context, no, we're not. I'm not saying that. Or it's perceiving that it's basically positioning the argument as if white is right, because we can also have the same conversation saying like, well, I would even say that story is more so just a test on both sides. It's not just a full-blown example of what happens when you go against the grain of what is right or what God necessarily instructed, but it's also, if you look at it this way, this is also a test to the people that are doing the oppressing, or has the choice has the choice of the matter in oppressing or not oppressing. Now, granted, it may say in the Bible a list of these predicated events that will happen in hindsight, but is it? I would even say that this is also a testament or a test on their side, because it's like a right or wrong, because that story is about what's right and what's wrong. So oppressing someone is a sense of going against something that is, not ethically or morally right. Mm-hmm. And within that, this story is about accountability and about responsibility and taking ownership for what is right and what is wrong. So in instance, I think that's a test on both sides, I would say, on whether, regardless if that was a conviction that the people of Israel deserved on what they did on, disobeying, but also I would even say putting your own people through devastation like that is a sense of a test of right and wrong. So, how do you feel about that?
I'll probably ask you to further elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because you say it could be a test on either side, right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to black and brown people, I get mostly where you're coming from that, but explain to me when it comes to people of Caucasian descent, how will that kind of story, that parable, apply to them?
Well,
before I give my response.
Okay. A lot of times people look at the book, The People of Israel, as it's pretty much specifically speaking to people of black and brown descent. Mm-hmm. However, in the Bible, it speaks to like if whoever believes that Jesus Christ is the Father, they are part of that lineage and that mm-hmm. in that group of people in that kingdom. Yeah. So with that being said, that's like generalizing that everyone is a part of that kingdom, if regardless of their geographic or race mm-hmm. race ties to the situation. Yeah. Basically, if they are if white civilization is now being brought into the picture of basically enslaving their own people, regardless if they look different or regardless if they look different or come from a different geographic or domestic background. It's kind of like a test, like you're enslaving and you are basically inhumanely stripping your own people from their own history, from their own lineage, their own identity, and things of that nature. And it comes to a point where, even though that was a testament or something that was prophesied to happen, it still lends to the point of them having a choice, and the choice of the matter of doing so. Yes, it may have been prophesied, but I think we all have the power of choosing between right or wrong, regardless of what necessarily is come to pass. Yes, it may come to pass, but you as an individual have a say-so on what you choose to be a part of and things of that nature. So that's basically what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. So as far as that would be, first is that obviously everybody doesn't have the same moral compass. So what's right and wrong. The same Bible you using, people of Caucasian descent used it at one time to keep us enslaved. That same Bible says slaves obey your master in so many words. Probably not it's literally the way I said it, but in so many words it says slaves obey your master. So I believe that becomes the issue of, especially when you try to use religion, particularly the Bible, because it itself has been twisted and used in a tool. So my next response to that would be is, if they are in essence enslaving their own people because now they're accepting this lineage of Jesus Christ, and a lot of them proclaim to be Christians and they accept Jesus Christ, what it will come to my head, and I think a lot of people that I'm around the head, is that, okay, if that is what has happened, then what is there, for lack of a better word, punishment? If those of color's punishment, our punishment has been because we walked away from the face of God, and that's why we're suffering what we're suffering. They have seemed to done almost unscathed by their own. And that's why me personally, especially when I'm talking to young people in particular, it's a very, very, lack of a better word, dicey thing to use the Bible and to use scripture, because I know the kind of questions that pop up when I'm talking to a young person, and the questions come and when in the past when I did use the Bible heavily, okay, well, so in layman's terms, some questions such as, well, why God let this happen? Okay, so if this happened, then why white people allowed to do this?
I would say that is, it's very hard to navigate, because I would say, let's look at it this way. If we was to strip away race and all the other things that we can relate to as black and brown people, and we looked at it from a totality of just the human race, and we're seeing how all those things have necessarily affected the brotherhood or sisterhood of what makes us have a sense of commonality, regardless of where we come from, what race we originate from, or things of that nature. If we actually see the long-term effects it's had on humankind, instead of it actually having on just a separate group of people, I think we'll understand that, yes, it's very easy to see the inflictions that has been done upon you because it's happening to you. But it's very hard for you to see the inflictions that is basically done to a totality for a whole group of people, because you're more so concerned about what's necessarily happening to you and people that necessarily identify with you and the subgroup that that you're a part of. But in totality, even though in history it may look like they have walked away unscathed, unpunished, and their wrongs have not been righted at all. I think the big punishment and conviction and all that is I think this goes back to a conversation we had a couple 2 months ago when we're talking about the art of confusion. And I think this holds in to that, how even though they may have not been necessarily been hurt or victimized in some sorts in the way that Black and brown people have, they're necessarily grouped into that as well. They're more so grouped into the effects that we've endured as in separatism, and why we can't necessarily identify or see ourselves as or see people that are Anglo-Saxons, and we can't identify them as our brother or our sister, for lack of better terms, because they don't have the same struggle as we do, and they don't have the same values or moral compass as we do. So I think within that, I would say that is one of the reasons why.
I get where you're coming from, but I would say that I respect where you stand, but I think to a degree it's unrealistic. First of all, I just believe that you can't lay at the victim's feet to change the heart of the person that did whatever, that caused him to be a victim. Like, for example, you come slap me. What sense does it make for somebody to tell me, well, Chaz, you need to be kind to him and be, I won't even say forgiving, but be forgetting of it and just let it go so y'all can move on. But you're allowed to not ever have to be told to come back to apologize, to make amends, and to make it right. To me, like, not even get super spiritual, dip into no religion. That's just totally idiotic and unrealistic to me. Just being completely honest, it's totally unrealistic to me. Where I stand overall on this topic is that we definitely shouldn't forget the past, but I don't believe that we should spend every waking moment concentrating on it. I feel that
you don't feel that we can learn from the past, so therefore we don't be down to repeat it?
I feel like you can learn. I feel like definitely you can learn from the past. I feel like you can learn from the past, but I feel like the past more so should be used as a tool to help especially youth of Black and brown people understand your conditions wasn't always like this. At one time, you were the world's superpower.
Yeah.
Honestly, for little as it said, for as long as this earth has been here, you actually rule a lot longer than, I know it don't seem like in recent time, than people of Caucasian or Asian descent or whoever descent have ruled. That is the biggest thing to me. The reason why is because amongst Black and brown people, what has to be changed more than anything is the mentality. It's not necessarily the conditions. It's the mentality that the conditions brought about. But the catch-22 to that is, no matter how much I can talk to somebody, mentor them, preach to them, show them things, whatever. If I go home every day and my conditions show me this, you're telling me this, but my conditions show me this. I can't be super hard on them for not just their mind changing overnight.
What I got from having this conversation with Chaz is it's kind of like this. he came in with, like I said, he came in here with his with his worldwide perspective of everything, and I came here with just my religious point of view, from the Bible, and and it's kind of hard because you don't want to look like it's kind of hard because it's kind of like you don't want to sound as if you are making it seem like the people that have been oppressed should suck it up and just deal with it and stuff like that, because you don't want that to come off like that. But it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just like I guess I'm just so hung up on what I'm reading, and then also understanding real lives that are being affected and how that meshes, because you don't want to undermine what someone's feeling, and you don't want to undermine the effects that thousands of years have had on a specific honed-in group of people. And it's not like the thing that he brought up, towards the end of our conversation in regards to the million of other religious aspects that Christianity has pulled from. I've known that. It's just, I don't know. The Bible is supposed to be this book of how we should necessarily live our lives accordingly, the right way. And it's supposed to be this book that teaching you lessons on how to go about your life the right way. And if this book is supposed to be this book is supposed to be this love story about how we should conduct our lives, and it's giving you a history lesson of using these biblical figures on how they made their choices and the things that they had to endure based upon their decisions, and how we as people in present time should use those as examples of how we should conduct our lives accordingly based on their decisions. It's just, I guess you could say it's a confliction, because it's like you don't want to undermine what someone's feeling, and you also don't want to disregard history, because in all aspects, regardless if the Bible or any book that is religious is flawed, it's still technically related in truth. So in that's what I had to.
Basically, what I learned from Brother Chris is something that I know but have been reminded of is that, not that forgiving our past is ever an option, of course not, but in essence, you got to want to heal. In that sometimes we can get comfortable in always being hurt and always being below and always being beneath. That would probably be the first thing. The second thing that I learned from him, and I actually always continue to learn from him, and I actually appreciate him for this, and I never told him, I told him now, is that us as a people, black and brown people, have to get open to each other and each other's different perspectives. And I think out of everybody that's immediately in my life, he's a leader amongst that. To put together the podcast that we do every week, and for him to openly have dialogue and discuss. I don't even say debate. I think it's truly discussion on other people's beliefs. And I would honestly say that he speaks his mind, exactly what he believes, but he is definitely the most open person that I know, especially of black and brown that's immediately in my life, to sit directly in front of somebody that thinks almost the exact opposite of what he thinks, and he can accept it and take it in and give his opinion on it and truly digest it, and not look to say something snazzy back or to just debate back or prove that he's right, but to truly take it in. First I want to say I truly respect you for that. I think that's an awesome, great thing. But referring back to our topic of victimhood and amongst us, I definitely agree with him that we have to, like I said before, we definitely have to want to heal. And I think we definitely agree with him that we have to look at where we are now and see that we're not where we was 400 years ago.